Hello there. You are someone and I'm someone else, and today we're going to be talking about something very controversial, very controversial. We're going to be talking about abortion. Yes, I know, I probably shouldn't bring it up. What am I? What, a man? Yeah, I'm a man. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Anyway, despite the fact that I'm a man, you are someone, I'm someone else, and today we're going to talk about my perspective on abortion. Right? This is gonna get me canceled. I'm gonna lose job interview. I was thinking about this writing in Arabic. Live, laugh, love, or whatever on a headband in Arabic. See how many jobs I can get fired from. But this is gonna be way better than that. So, anyway, abortion, right? So we ban abortion. So we keep abortion. Personally, I don't think of abortion as a human right, but I also don't think of abortion as something that we should necessarily ban. I mean, it's kind of funny to say I'm a centrist on this. So we shame people who've had abortions? Absolutely not. I know people personally have had abortions. I don't hate them for having abortions. We shouldn't shame people for something they did in their past. Obviously, the importance of picking the right man is more important, in my opinion, than the ideal that we should never use the last resort as our first resort. And that's what a lot of these women are doing. They're like, oh, we uphold abortion. I like having that pregnant fetus and then killing the baby. I'm like, okay, clearly you're a bit of a crazy person if you're like that. And also that probably will destroy your body over time if you keep doing it over and over again. Abortion is probably worse for your body than birth. I don't know how true that is. I probably am entirely wrong on that. I don't know the medical stuff with abortions. I'm assuming it's terrible for your body after like 3 abortions. You probably have destroyed some part of your body or something. I mean, maybe it's perfectly safe. I have no idea. But I assume there are some consequences to it. It's kind of like freezing eggs. I'm sure like 20% eggs that get frozen and then they go back into the woman. Yeah, it's not going to work. 20% of the time they might work, but they might have like, a bunch of birth defects or even just regular learning abilities like dyslexia and dyspraxia and all sorts of random stuff, or autism, maybe autism. Very uncommon that it's going to be autism. It's generally dyspraxia or dyslexia that causes that gets caused with freezing eggs. Anyway, that's besides the point. Okay, with abortion, the thing is, I'm on the fence on this, right? With abortion. Abortion, for one thing, I don't think it's the right for the government to tell you what to do, right? I generally believe you can put whatever substance in your body, put whatever thing in your body, but it's a human being that's in you. And so after 9 weeks, I would consider abortion absolutely illegal in some regard. The reason why, and I'm not a very late-term abortion guy, I know that, right? After 9 weeks, that human being inside of you, when that fetus is there, can feel nerves. Liberals are very, what can I say? Liberals, apparently, especially libertarians, liberals or Democrats or whatever, these pro-socialist people are very anti-pain. But when it comes to the life of the fetus, they're not. And that, to me, is very contradictory. If you care about pain of a person, why wouldn't you care about pain of a fetus? You know what I mean? After 9 weeks, they have fully developed nerve endings. So at 9 weeks or higher, at that point, they've already feeling pain. They've a fully formed almost nervous system. And you're going to just destroy that nervous system, rip it right out. It's going to still be painful. I'm assuming he got his head chopped off in the French Revolution. It was still semi-painful. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it's like the French Revolution in the fact that the guillotine might be the same as having an abortion with a fetus. They might not feel anything. But still, it's just absolutely terrible that they have a fully formed nervous system. And the chance of them feeling 1 second of pain is pretty horrifying. I mean, it's probably just as bad as whatever death penalty is when they do the needle. There's actually a needle abortion too, I think, where they put a needle inside the fetus and it kills them, it destroys their nervous system. Just like when somebody gets the death penalty in the United States, which I'm also against the death penalty, by the way. I'm against abortion, but I'm also against I'm against abortion bans, but I'm also against the death penalty. I'm a little weird. That's what makes me a libertarian. I think anything that reduces the power of the state is the best alternative. Which is why I'm more pro-abortion than anti-abortion. But in my opinion, after 9 weeks, it's very hard to justify it unless you're going to die from the birth. At that point, your life is more valuable than the kid that potentially could have defects or potentially will not have the best life without you there. So in my opinion, if your life's at risk of having, like, let's say it's not going to be economic pain. It's going to be actual, like, you're going to really die from it. There's almost no chance you survive, like a 2% chance you survive. At that point, get the abortion. Because you on this earth is more important than that kid that might potentially have a terrible life without you on it. So, I mean, that's kind of debatable. Like, again, I'm sure that there are plenty of women that die from birth. So I think our species is absolutely terrible at our heads. But we've created medical technology to hopefully have relieved the ideal that women aren't going to die of birthing. So hopefully that won't happen in the future. As technology advances, I'm sure that our birth rates are collapsing, though. You look at men's testosterone, you look at women just want to enter the workforce, don't really want to have kids or families. I completely understand that the economy's crazy, and women actually voted for it, to be perfectly honest with you. If you're going to keep voting for welfare, and what are the chances it raises taxes and raises inflation? What are the chances that we all have to work because of it? But that's besides the point. Even though women have voted for all this stuff, and they also voted for abortion, which I'm okay with. I'm actually okay with women's rights in some way. I think what's going to happen, though, is the irresponsibility of these quote-unquote rights is going to be other people's stuff they're going to have to pay for. I'm going to pay for other people's irresponsibilities. I don't want to pay for abortion. So in my opinion, abortion, do I view it as a right? A right that you have to pay for yourself, right? I don't want to pay for your abortion. If I let's say I'm a Christian or like a religious fanatic, right? And I don't like abortion, and my taxes are going towards abortion. Why should I pay taxes that go towards that? You know what I mean? Or if I'm anti-war, why should my taxes go to war? But obviously, I guess in the U.S. Congress, it's still different. The Constitution actually does explicitly say your taxes should go to war, even if you disagree with it. Because we've elected representatives that decide to go to war. Although, sometimes the president goes to war. In the last war we've actually technically declared war, it's been authorized was in the 90s. Which is kind of crazy. I mean, Afghanistan was never authorized as a war. But anyway, I'm against the death penalty. I don't think taxes should fund that. I'm against war, and I'm against abortion. I think our taxes should be reduced for all three of those things. I don't even really think we should be in all these other Middle Eastern countries, to be honest. I am pro-American, but I think that let these countries develop their values by themselves. They'll figure it out. Same thing with communism in Vietnam, right? We fought the commies in the Vietnam War, right? In I believe the early 60s, late 60s to early 70s. Let them develop, let them see if communism actually works. Why do we need to march in there and prove that our system's better than everyone else's? Let their system collapse first and let them learn. I don't understand that. Why do we have to impose our rule on other people? Maybe because we have a bunch of sociopaths in the White House and in a bunch of other places. Like, I absolutely hate it. To me, I'm like, let communism, even though I hate communism, even though I hate socialism, even though I know it doesn't work, let them try. Let them fail, and then realize, let's have capital markets allocate capital resources to our country. Now, you could argue that sometimes they're Keynesian or corporatism, which is kind of the same thing. Keynesianism's like a less extreme version of extreme corporatism, which is basically fascism. You could argue that capitalism could lead to that. I don't know if that's like a post hoc fallacy. I don't think that actually is true, but there's never been a true capitalist society. Technically, there has been. The Acadians are really the only true capitalist country I can think of is the Acadians. Every other country is either corporatism or socialism. We're actually a mix of, we're a mix of corporatism, socialism, and capitalism. I mean, it's crazy. We have all three systems, and our regulations are what's limiting the capitalist private sector, and our corporations, like the public stock market, in my opinion, does have capital. So it is, partially, there is some voluntariness to it. But then when the public stock market influences our government, that's when I call it corporatism. That's when I could say, okay, well, it's not the leaders choosing the corporations to win, like in fascism, but it's the corporations bribing the politicians, choosing themselves to win. That's corporatism. So that's like the opposite of fascism, in my opinion. How does it end up in an abortion debate? I don't know. But basically, the reason why we have all the terrible things that happen is because our Constitution limits the government, but it doesn't do enough. And we do need to limit our government from imposing rules on women and everybody in society. Do I think that abortion is morally wrong most of the time? Absolutely yes. Do I think that we should ban abortion? No. Just because something's morally wrong does not mean we should ban it. Everything illegal should be morally wrong, although technically doing drugs in your body is not morally wrong. I mean, yes, is it a shame that somebody taught you to not do it and somebody, they wanted you to develop into a nice person and instead you wasted your body away to drugs and you died of a drug overdose? Like, some people die of a drug overdose. Do you think that's shameful for some people that wasted all their effort on that person? Yeah, it is kind of shameful. But does that person have the right, in my opinion, to do drugs? Yes, because it's their body. If the government says you can't put a certain substance in your body, then the government controls you, not you. And that's sort of the thing. I believe that you have your own self-ownership. If your body's not owned by you, then it's owned by somebody, and you're a slave then to it, to the system. And so that's the ultimate theory of libertarianism. Libertarianism, while it's never really worked in a big society like the United States, it's worked in Acadia, which was half a continent. I mean, if it's going to work in Acadia, which, by the way, doesn't exist anymore, it was conquered by the United States, by the corporatist United States, or that's these mostly capitals back then, but you gotta understand, like, the United States, right? Actually, in the 1830s when the United States became truly capitals. Before that, there was actually state banks, and they collapsed, like the Bank of Ohio and stuff like that, collapsed. So we did learn that government intervention in the market didn't work. But either way, in the early 1800s, but either way, right? Even though our big social government took over the Acadians and destroyed them, they spoke French. They were in the Louisiana Territory, and they were trading peacefully with the natives, and there was almost no violence. It was all, a voluntary interaction with literally almost no government. There was almost nobody elected to represent the Acadians. They just existed. That, to me, is a better society than the one we live in today, where we elect leaders and they regulate the market, where they regulate abortion, where they regulate the sale of organs, they regulate guns, and then now you don't have as much voluntary trade, because now, guess what? You can't buy that. There's a freaking tax on it, or it's too expensive because of the tax, or it's just illegal. Abortion is illegal. I'm like, yeah, I don't want taxpayers to fund it, but I also don't want to. I don't like abortion, but I don't think it should be illegal either. So that's the thing. I'm on the fence of it. Why does it have to be pro-abortion or anti-abortion or pro-choice or anti-choice when you could actually think about it in a more rational sense, where it's just about, okay. Like, obviously, it's what makes me more libertarian than a Republican, because Republicans, they care more about the morality side of things. And they care about so much, they'll use the government to impose that. Libertarians, they don't really do that, at least in our political parties in the United States. If you know anything about the United States, I shouldn't really talk about the United States in perspective, but that's where I live, so. But the libertarians, they just care about reducing government as much as they can, including abortion, which I'm okay with, but morally, I just don't think that should be the last option, and especially if you're healthy enough to have a kid. I mean, single motherhood, you either pick between single motherhood and having an abortion, and both of those options are terrible. I don't know which is better or worse, to be honest with you. I don't know. You have a child, it gives you purpose and meaning in life, somewhat, but you could also be very poor with that child, or, you could have the abortion and be scarred in life having the abortion. There are so many women who are scarred for life having an abortion. That just don't like the fact they've had it. So, I mean, and we shouldn't shame anyone for it. But if, you're going to go and say, I think abortion should be illegal at birth. We should just murder the kid right at birth. Like, okay, clearly, and, the kid's, being born and you just give a knife to it. Like, okay, you're a bit of a crazy person. I think that you should probably rethink your thoughts. We're not going to shame you for it. But I think we should rethink things before we say things, because That's gonna drive the Republicans is ban abortion more. We don't want that. So I don't know what the solution is, but personally, in my opinion, 9 weeks should be the cutoff. Although most people wanted 18 weeks, which I think is way too high. I think that's almost a fully developed baby if you look in there. I don't know, but I know I'm a man. Like I said, I'm willing to compromise on abortion if it's like a medical thing. If you're gonna die or something, or even like with rape. Even with rape, if you got raped and you test out pregnancy, if you didn't test the pregnancy in the first 9 weeks, you're just dumb. I don't understand why you didn't do that. Unless your pill failed or something, I just don't see it. You should be testing if you got pregnant. If you had any source of intercourse, you should be testing that if you're a woman, right? You got raped, whatever, which I probably shouldn't say that word, but, imposed upon, right? And you have an abortion, like, okay, within the first 9 weeks, okay, you should have had it in the first 9 weeks. Because, like, the pregnancy test goes, like, within the second day, you'll find out if you're pregnant. So, I don't see why you wouldn't, unless you're really poor, you can't afford a pregnancy test. I'm sure there are free pregnancy tests in high schools or in colleges. I could be wrong on that. Maybe it is expensive. I don't know. Again, I'm not a woman. Please comment down below. I'm trying not to take the socialist argument where, I can't afford it, so I'm gonna be avoided of consequences. No, you're gonna have to suffer consequences regardless if you're poor or not. The average person does. So I'm not gonna ignore consequences for socialists nor poor people. But that's besides the point. You are someone, I'm someone else. That's sort of my perspective on abortion. I'm a little bit crazy when it comes to that. Goodbye.